Hey, what it do? What the business is?
It is another week in the books with the On Deck TV podcast. I am Spike Lou.
Man, holler at your boy Animal Brown, Animal underscore Brown if you're looking for me.
I am Spike Lou on the same social sites if you're searching for your boy. How you holding up out there?
I'm good, man. Football season out. It's in full swing.
Yeah,
Shout
football
out to the
season is
Ravens. I have a
ready to
house
go.
still because I sure put the house on the Ravens game. I would have had to stay at your
Lost.
spot.
The Ravens lost, didn't
Stop.
they?
No, sir. I'd have been homeless.
Yeah, I was definitely in football mode yesterday, man. All day on the couch, nigga, from 1 until nigga Cam Newton was stopped at the goal line. Nigga. That's all I'm trying to do today. It's good to have sports back, man, and going good, like, at least for the moment.
For
Get our
now.
mind off everything else.
I'm loving this episode right here, though, already.
Of course, because we're talking about Kanye West. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about ownership in hip hop this week, man. We want to go over the tweets that Kanye West put out there and talk about masters and contracts and all that good stuff with the music industry. But first, it's a new HBO series called Thirst, and it's focusing on hip hop and vampires. We want to know, are you here for it? Also, Warner Music Group buys Hip Hop DX, a record label buying a music media outlet. Is that a big deal, a little deal, or no deal? Also, the Buffalo Police are claiming that Benny the Butcher's BSF Black Soprano family merch is gang affiliated. They're issuing parole violations for wearing the merch. That's insane. We're going to get into that. But first, biggest news of the week, Cardi and Offset have filed for divorce. News broke last week as far as the power couple splitting up. My question to you, Anna Brown, how big of a hit is it to hip-hop power couples that this couple has called it quits?
Man, first of all, I think when you mention big dog hip hop couples, they've got to be up there top three simply because of how big of a presence Cardi B has in the rap game and just being a celebrity, period, and on the profile level. So it's definitely a big hit, but it's not a big one. Like if we wake up tomorrow and Jay and Beyonce have cut it off, then we're in trouble. Like it's gonna look nuts. But if you listen to some of what Cardi has been saying, which has come across my feed a little bit, like I think she's hopped on live a couple of times or whatever, and the way she's explaining shit, it sounds like some adult shit and shit happens. So I hope everybody understands that and they don't try to paint hip hop with this broad brush, like it can't happen. Like there can't be a happily married power couple, black couple in the hip hop world, man. So it's unfortunate for them, but it's not that big of a hit. I'm gonna be honest.
This is not a big deal at all from a cultural standpoint. Of course, to those two, prayers go out, man. Whatever they want, I hope they're able to work it out. But you hit the nail on the head. Unless it's Jay-Z and Beyonce,
That's rough.
it's gonna keep rolling. I think that they've set that precedent for hip hop power couples. Love is in the air in hip hop. Like way more so than when we grew up. Now it's cool to have your significant others doing the Snapchats and the just the different things to show that love is in the air. So I don't think that this is gonna put a hit in it at all, especially because, like you said, Cardi is keeping it real adult-like.
That's
They're
true.
not shitting on each other. It's like we grew apart. And that's something that you hear adults say when they break up outside of the hip hop kitty stuff. That's something that people can address and keep it moving without any disrespect happening there. So, I don't think that takes any hit at all. I think it's a very mature way to go about it. So I don't think this has been a big deal.
What if Offset was trying to get the bag from her like Dr. Dre wife?
Trying to get what from her?
What if you trying to get the big dog bag off Cardi? That shouldn't be funny no more.
They work about the same though. They about on the same level. I wonder how that's gonna work out. If you were either one of them, would you just be like, I got mine, like we ain't even gotta go do court, just sign a paper, you never hear from me again, I never hear from you again, or would you make sure you got what you deserve?
It's
Is all said.
it's a little one involved. That's the problem.
Oh, well, I don't mean no. I mean an amicable, like,
Uh,
hey, I don't got no problems with you, but we ain't got to go to court to see who get this house and who get this whip. Like,
gotcha.
we could just figure this shit out.
That shit
What do
don't
you
never
think?
happen.
Somebody like, nah, I want mine.
It don't never happen that way.
Don't.
Because usually somebody did something, even though they saying the rumors aren't real. I mean, you know, the Offset got a side baby and all that. They saying all that's just gossip bullshit. But there's usually someone's fed up, and it's
It's
usually
it's
one
COVID,
party that's
man.
fed up.
People having to sit up under each other, man, that ain't used to sitting up under each other. I think a lot got to do with these.
That's true.
These people are used to traveling. Like they ain't used to being up under each other. We can talk on the phone for a couple hours, you know, and have to do
FaceTime.
that. Yeah, and then boom, I see you this weekend. But they probably having to be up under each other every day. A lot more marriages probably not gonna make it. I seen Young Miami talking about she was single now.
Who
She
was
was on
she
the
talking
boat
to?
twerking, talking about she was single. She put it on her IG live.
But who was she talking to?
She
Somebody
said
famous?
newly single. What's
Was it
the
the
dude
producer?
name that make the beats? Yeah.
Oh, okay, Southside.
Southside, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was dating him. She said she's done with it. So we'll
Damn.
see what happens after COVID, man. You know how it goes.
We'll see who gonna give
That's
a
not a
party
big
though.
deal. I don't think that's a big deal.
Nah, it ain't. Hey, let's talk TV, man.
Who's
You know how we get down.
is Cardi like clearly she ahead of Offset clearly? Like when this is over with, she comes out on top, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
She's more of a star than he is.
She's a solo artist, and to be fair, Offset's in a group. He got to share the light to keep
That's
it
fair.
on. You know, we like to talk TV, man. And there's a new HBO series on deck that combines hip hop and vampires. Let me give you the description. All right. First of all, it's called Thirst. And it says the series tells the story of a brilliant but cocky Atlanta rapper who thinks he has found his way to stardom when he links up with hip hop's hottest group, but he has no idea they are hiring a crazy secret. They are a family of vampires with roots going back centuries. HBO has purchased this hip hop vampire series. Is this must see TV?
Man, if they don't get this shit out of here, no one wants to see Bit or whatever the fuck the name of this is, man. Thirst, I think. I just don't. I'm glad that people are paying more attention to hip hop. That's fantastic. But when it's a watered down rendition of this, it's like, who wants to see hip hop vampires, dude? Like, did you see Vampire in Brooklyn?
I did.
You seen that? Was that
I have.
like, imagine trying? That's what I think. That's the first thing that I get when they say that. And then the writers that are tied to this and the showrunners, their previous history consists of your favorite show, Tales.
Oh my God.
And the lead
I can't
writer
believe
on
it.
this, yeah, the lead writer of this work, she wrote the first episode of Tales. And what's the other one on Fox? Empire.
Oh my God.
That's what the guy has. That's the background that he has. So that's what you have to look forward to. Um, if we're going to do hip hop stories, I could use a little bit more depth. I don't really need the fantasy vampire type thing. Shout out to Lovecraft Country. It got black people in roles that we haven't seen before. But when we talking about hip hop, I prefer something more traditional, man. I don't need vampires. I don't need secret cult vampires. I feel like this had something to do with the Migos. If the Migos were playing the group, maybe I'd tune into this. But other than that, man, I'm out. I don't want to see this.
Man, hip hop and vampires, dude. Like, what in the Buffy the Vampire Slayer bullshit is this, dude? Like, I'm all the way out. This is trash. Where's the BMF show? Quit playing games and put out the fucking BMF Black Mafia Family show, dude. Like, what are we waiting on? I'm cool on hip hop and vampires. I don't like any vampire related anything. Like, it's never been entertaining.
That ain't your genre right there?
Nah, the hardest vampire thing was
Vampire in
From Dusk
Brooklyn.
Till Dawn. That was hard. That's it.
Damn.
That's it. What, nigga, you watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Like, this shit
Nah,
is
I haven't.
trash.
I agree with you. That's why I was trying to hold you too, trying to see was there something in there that a
It's
hole in it, but I
trash.
can't think of anything vampire related that I like.
Unless you watch True Blood.
Yeah, I heard that was decent, but I tried like 3 episodes and it was wild. Like I couldn't get into at that point in time, the fantasy world and all that stuff. But since I've watched Game of Thrones, I may double back on True Blood and see what that's talking about. But I ain't really into the werewolves and the vampires. This is kind of off the top of the dome, so do what you can with the question. If there were a hip hop based show, like something that they could focus on, a producer getting on or a rapper trying to make it, which we've seen before, is there something that you would be looking for?
I like what Netflix did with when they had the movie with Anthony Anderson with the kid that was
That
a
was cool.
producer. It could have been it could have been done a little better, but I like that they went with that road. And I also like what Atlanta's doing too, though, because that's even though that's not technically centered 100% around rap, it's centered around his homeboy rapping and them trying to get him on, but it's done in like a dark comedy kind of quirky way. I like that, or Dave, because that's a technically a hip
Dave
hop
is
show
good.
too.
Dave is very good.
So I
Um,
like when they go that route. I'm always here for funny. So if you can make something funny, count me in.
if I had to pitch an idea, I would say sort of like a hip hop version of it would be a scripted show, but they would be like doing newsroom like TMZ, but it's scripted,
Mm,
like with all the crazy hip hop headlines that you see, and then like just have the characters like making funny comments and jokes and shit about it. But I think that you kind of do something with hip hop in the vein of Brown Sugar. I'm trying to say like a series
mm.
of Brown Sugar hip hop writer goes into a newsroom. They deal with hip hop topics on a weekly basis and kind of bounce stuff off each other, have conversations. I feel like that would be a good series drama that they can hash out. But I
Kind
do
of like
not want to see vampires. I would.
what's the shit on Apple TV we just got through watching?
That, yeah, absolutely, something like
Yeah,
that. Something
but that
like
like at a
a
label,
morning show, a newsroom, but
that'll
at
be
a
hard.
label. Like if it was at Complex,
That'll be hard.
that would be fire.
Yeah,
That's
more
what I
black
think
people
would be
there though.
absolutely.
But
Yeah, more
I will
black
say,
people than at Complex. Like
yeah,
if it was at
exactly.
Realville Media, like
There
I'm
you
sorry.
go. I will say this though. When I read that the description of the show, I immediately thought that the vampires represented like the Illuminati or something. And so it's
I
like him getting into something that he didn't know existed, and it's like a deep, dark, like underbelly world. I was like, oh, is this some Illuminati shit? You know what I'm saying? In that case, actually, it might actually be decent if they can correlate the two. That might kind of be cool though.
again, their background is Tales
Yeah,
and Empire.
that's
So
over two.
do with that information what you want. But that's
Change the
their
channel.
background. Tales and Empire.
That's a skip.
All right, next man. Hip Hop DX recently released the news that they were purchased by Warner Music Group. Now, this move didn't just happen, it happened a couple of weeks ago, but they were finally able to talk about it. My question to you is a record label buying a hip hop media source a big deal?
Yes, it's definitely a big deal because now every time you go on Hip Hop DX, you're going to see the latest Warner Music act signee plastered across the top. Like all of a sudden, Warner artists are going to get 5 mics and they're going to have classics whenever that shit gets rated. And like, first, well, let me back it up. Salute to Hip Hop DX, first off. I'm a fan, I'm a visitor of the site. So shout out to them.
Facts.
Congratulations on the acquisition. But what reason would a label have to buy a media platform if not to control what goes on it? I would. Fuck it, you're gonna see all my artists. They're gonna be on every other article, and they're gonna be promoted for free at the top of the screen because I own the shit. Like if Trump bought CNN, nigga, the content would change immediately. It would be a whole
Facts.
nother tone on the network if that was the case. So this is a little dangerous, but I get it. I'm not blaming Hip Hop DX, and if anything, it's a smart move by Warner Music. Honestly, we'll be seeing a lot more Warner acts. We'll be talking about more of them on the show. I'm call that now.
True. And shout out to Hip Hop DX. Like you said, I'm an avid subscriber to checking their site almost on a daily basis. So shout out to those guys. On a short term basis, I don't think this is a big deal. This acquisition happened in April. Here we are a couple months down the line, and nothing. And like I said, I frequent it daily. Nothing has really changed on the site. Long term, I agree with you. I think that the long term, you start to see more Warner people on there. You start to lose the credibility of having objectivity as a site
Yep,
because you're going to, or it's going to seem like you're skewing towards the people who come from Warner, whether it be the people at the top of the page, whether it be the reviews that you do, the music that you let out. It's going to seem like, or it seems as if from a consumer standpoint, that those things are going to start skewing towards Warner, and that's the fear that I would have. I don't want to see Apple Music come in and buying like any other like sites. Hip Hop DX,
XXL.
all hip hop, XXL,
Well,
Mad.
not even Apple. Apple Music doesn't have artists though. That's different.
But true, like
It'd
well,
be if
Universal
Universal bought that shit.
came in and bought them or something like that. But
Yeah,
yeah, I don't want to see that. I still want those people to be able to be independent and be able to report, broadcast, give a point of view that's not going to be skewed from a label because they're trying to push a narrative or push an agenda. So that does
And
scare me moving forward.
that's where we get claims of people being plants and things of that nature. Because I'll give you a prime example. I remember when ASAP Rocky first came out, and I swear to you, whatever label he was on at the time, I don't know if that's Atlantic or what, but they must have dropped a duffel bag off of money off it on Smash.com because he was plastered all over that fucking website, dude. And I was like, bro, let me listen to this goddamn album so these ads will stop popping up or some. So you're gonna start to see that, and if it becomes blatant, then it's going to be a problem. You're right. This acquisition happened months ago or weeks ago, and I haven't really noticed the difference. So hopefully that's a sign of things to come. But man, that shit can get ugly, man, on some conflict of interest type shit for real.
That's a fact, and I don't want that to happen at all. Shout out to Double XL, man. I hope they're able to keep their integrity of what they're
Hip
doing.
Hop DX.
Excuse me, Hip Hop DX.
Next up, man, before we get to this ownership and hip hop talk, Benny the Butcher, my guy, took to Twitter to warn his fans. He said, quote, "If you buy a shirt from me, you're gang related according to the Buffalo police," end quote. He then screenshotted a text coming from someone that he knew that said that somebody, a partner of his, had got locked up due to his Black Soprano family shirt and hat. Are you surprised the hip hop police are still in full effect out here?
I'm surprised that they are locking people up for wearing this BSF Black Soprano family stuff. I'm very surprised that it's a parole violation that's being affiliated with gang ties. I'm surprised that small, little, big towns like Buffalo are still able to get away with stuff like this. Like this is the police department just being bullies, and this is the Justice Department just being bullies as far as the probation and parole officers. And if I were Benny, as much money as I could allocate to sending a lawyer there or hiring a local lawyer to just give those people hell, to give like to one, to get this dude out of jail that they violated, and two, just like to take these motherfuckers to court for discrimination, to file restraining orders. Like I wouldn't, and I know he a street dude, like going to Twitter, like that seems like the way to go. Let people, to alert people, make them aware, hey, take this off right now. But I'm not letting the police put no stop in my show as far as selling my merch. Now you put like you are fucking up my business. So I'm coming at you with every arm of the law that I can, any lawyer that I can that's in the copyright, and making sure y'all stop this bullshit. Even
Yeah.
I almost sort of going home and handling it myself. Like I get tweeting and having to be out here moving, it's cold, but you got to get it because ain't no shows. But at the same time, like this would be a very big deal to me if I were Ben. Like this wouldn't be anything that I would tweet and then wonder what happened a week later. Like I would be following up on this shit on a daily basis because in 2020 it is surprising, especially what we have going on now from a social climate,
Yeah.
that they can get away with this.
Yeah, people think because we're at home and we're quarantined that like the hip hop police have all of a sudden just disappeared. No, they still out here. They didn't get defunded. Like they are still out here. They're still a unit. I hope the situation is maybe BSF stands for something in Buffalo other than Black
Black
Soprano
Soprano
family
family.
that I'm not privy to.
But
Like,
I mean, I think that was their before they were, and don't quote me on this, before they were even blown up rapping. I think that was what they referred to themselves as. It's like their clique, like
okay,
rapping or not. So almost like you had G Unit and then you also had G Unit. Like you had
yeah.
Dipset and you also had Dipset. Like it wasn't every nigga in that shit didn't rap.
Yeah, yeah, that's a fact. Okay, well, yeah, in that instance, it makes sense. That's gonna cause a lot of trouble for a lot of people because that merch is sold the fuck out. So
Ooh.
there's people everywhere rocking the hat, rocking the shirt, rocking the hoodie, and I honestly, I don't think there'd be any issues if I put that shit on and went down to Linux tomorrow. Like I just don't foresee that.
You ain't in
But
Buffalo.
yeah, for the people in Buffalo, you might get pressed a little bit, and that's stupid and a waste of taxpayers' money, obviously. But that's the type of shit that goes on, dude. Defund the police, man. Hashtag.
From the police. Yeah, I
Um,
think that I hope that he's addressing this properly, is what I would say. Again,
in addition to
allocating
just a
those.
tweet.
Yeah, just allocating the right amount of force. So let people know, like, it's 2020. You can't affect my business that way. Like, you're not stopping me from selling shirts because y'all want some bullshit.
Yeah,
I'd be very
especially
pressed if I were him.
especially when ain't no shows coming in right now.
Yeah, like I need this merch money, nigga. You better quit playing with me. Man, and like they merch ain't like just no run of the mill like everyday
It's
shit.
some
Like
nice
these
shit.
niggas get off on their merch though. Like they are at the head of the game with him, Travis Scott. I would say Kanye, like
Yeah,
people that sell product. Like we
yeah.
do this shit, so I'd be
Nah,
pissed.
they invest in they products for
Yeah,
sure.
I'd be pissed at
Um,
this shit.
Speaking of Kanye,
Doom, doom, doom.
he getting to the main topic. Woo! Kanye went on another Twitter rant.
Surprise?
Stop me when you've heard that before. But this time it was a little more cohesive, air quotes.
Was
Uh,
it?
yeah, that's why I put the air quotes over it. He pretty much took on the recording industry has how it relates to people owning their masters and owning their property. And it turns out that he doesn't own his, and this turned into a big discussion of ownership and things of that nature. So we thought it would be dope on the show today. So number one, we'll go through some of his rants and discuss, the tone of this and if people accepted this a little bit differently than some of his other rants. We'll look at his contract that he posted too. He posted all 100 pages, and then we'll talk about what the fuck masters are and why it's important to own them, and give some examples of artists who do have their masters and some that don't. You might be surprised. So real quick, we'll start with the actual rant itself. You think that Kanye's rant hit differently because it was about ownership?
I don't think so. From a personal standpoint, I'm kind of biased, so I'd say that first. I justify by saying that first. But secondly, I don't think that I'm the only person that sees when Kanye starts ranting, it's like, oh, another one of these again, regardless of the context. And I think that he's placed himself in that box. I don't blame anybody other than him for you having to sift to people not being alert or not wanting to engage because they don't want to sift through the bullshit again with Kanye West. So when you start seeing him saying, I need to hear from J. Cole and I need to hear from Drake, and he's making these demands, and it's, in my opinion, like I say, I can shrug it off and keep it moving. Like it's not going to register to me just because I'm not sure if it's another I'm Walt Disney rant. I'm not sure if it's another Hal Sway rant. Like you never know. And like I said, this is not to take anything away from the content of what he was saying, but to get to it, it's hard for someone like me who tries to disengage from Kanye West because I'm just not that big of a fan of him and what he does from a social aspect. So I
Yeah,
try not to even get into it at all. But with that being said, just hearing just being in the culture and hearing some of the conversations that have spawned even without me paying attention to his direct tweets, I appreciate that. So I do have to give it credit and say that it hit differently in that sense for me, because those conversations that have spawned off this time aren't conversations about him and Kim's divorce or things that I could care less about. They're conversations about contracts and ownership and being able to get what you deserve as a creator. So I definitely appreciate that part of it. What about
yeah.
you?
I think the rant started off typical, asking J. Cole and Drake to apologize, and there was a lot of eye rolling and here we go again and all that type of shit. But then he started talking about the contracts and how artists get tangled and twisted, and he started to wake a lot of people up. I saw people supporting him. I saw Hit Boy supporting him. I saw several people kind of backing him, and he hasn't gotten this much support online in years, like from the culture that is. So I think this one hit differently because this reminded us of the old Kanye, exposing the system, raging against the machine, things that he used to do before. It's unfortunate that he doesn't have as much equity in people anymore because of his questionable stances that he's taken in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years. But this was a speckle of the old Kanye pissing on the Grammy, even though that didn't necessarily have anything to do with the ownership conversation. like so I
I
don't know
think
where
it
those two.
adds in though, like those, like
Eh, I guess that's looked at as the system, or
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
yeah,
That's
that's
part of
fine.
y'all. We do all of this and we make all of this money and we get trophies.
Oh, okay, that's fair. That's
You
true.
know, I'll piss on your trophies.
Yeah, that was funny. But he even
Who got the
posted
trophy out of the toilet? You think? Who you think
he
got that out of there? It's still not right
the
there
maid.
today. Mm,
That might be in there,
It
man. That might be in one of
ain't
the
still in the
36
toilet.
bathrooms that don't nobody. Somebody had to get it out though. He couldn't flush it,
Somebody
but
had to get that out. That's nasty too. Somebody got that out of there, man. It ain't still sitting in there.
man, that's funny as fuck. Niggas don't think about that. And who
Not at
cleaning it
all,
up?
man. Yeah, who getting that up, man? Like somebody, like, I would give him the credit. Like he may have put it in there. He might like, I'm gonna piss on this Grammy. But then when he got done and went back to tweeting, like, who was like, you gonna get it? I ain't picking that motherfucker up. You gonna get it? That's
Like
funny.
he was on his roll, man. He posted his full recording contract. It was 112 pages. He
Mm-hmm.
posted it page by page,
Mm-hmm.
tweet by tweet on Twitter. And there was some very interesting stuff in this contract. Like
It was.
something that jumped out to me, that he was for Yeezus, he was given 12 million to make Yeezus, which is nuts. 8 million of that's retarded. 8 million of that was in advance for him to keep, and then the remaining was like studios and
Recording.
samples and shit. And I thought
Prior
that was
to that,
interesting because in
Yeezus.
there, huh?
Right. I'm bad. Go ahead.
I was gonna say late registration, he was given $2.3 million advance and 1.2 for a budget. So I thought that was interesting that he went from 2.3 at one point in time to 12 million to make a project, and that was his shortest project. I thought that was interesting. And real quick too, he got a bonus. Tell me if I'm tripping. He got a bonus for making late registration. He got a $500,000 bonus if it went 3 times platinum in 11 months, and he got 750,000 extra if he delivered it on time. 500,000 if it went
That
3 times
ain't
platinum.
nothing.
That ain't okay. I was
Okay,
like,
we on the
nigga,
same
what?
page. I have it wrote down right here. I have it wrote down. Having to go. Actually, I wrote down 750. I thought he had to get
Yeah,
had to
if he
go
delivered
to
it on time, he got 750. He got
in
another
addition to
500
the
if it went.
five.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd be pissed at that too. Like, I, I think what to take it all into context and start with the contracts. Um, those are old business models, man. I love getting into the business and business development, talking through those things. So I'll start there. The reason that the reason that those contracts are set up that way, and I'm a novice in the music industry. I'm not some expert. This is just from what I understand about business. The contracts were set up those ways at one point because of what it took to record a song, to market a song, to get that song on the radio. It was a big process. Like you literally take reels, move reels, like in order for things to be recorded, moved, mastered, mixed. Like it was a lot that went into it, and everybody couldn't do it.
yep.
So when you charging $7,000-8,000 for a studio session, and your recording budget having to be $3.5 million, that's an old model. And I'm surprised that Kanye West in 2020 is just now addressing it. What was still taking 3.5 million to record an album when he did for late registration, when I know it didn't cost that much to record, and he knows that he has to pay it back. Again, I'm not blaming them for it. I know that's how they make money in music. You take this much for the recording budget, get your boy to do it, pay him, y'all take a
Facts.
little bit off of that, boom. I get that.
Yep.
But those are the things also too, manipulating the system like that to get you tied into the contract. Like, I don't know. I don't guess he had enough power. You don't have enough power in the beginning.
Right.
Say, I want to do
Leverage.
this and I want to do that. And now that he has the leverage, I don't think that it's wise to leak the contract and lose the leverage. Because I think most people contract looks like that. I'm Kanye
Facts.
West, though. I shouldn't have to do this, in my opinion, to make you move. Like, I ain't got to put my contract on Twitter, nigga. I'm Kanye West. You gave me $12 million advance on my last album. I'm worth $1 billion. I have clothing. I got one of the most popular women in the world I'm married to. I ain't got to go through all of this bullshit and jump through hoops to get someone on the phone. And that's what I think he was mad about. Like,
Yeah.
who are these people that I'm paying for music consulting and advertising that I've never met that are just eating off the Kanye West brand? So,
Yeah.
I mean, I respect that part of it, but what I don't respect is like the old model being able to just last for so long. And I guess because they didn't have any leverage to change.
Yeah, the whole masters and ownership like that shit didn't become popular to say until not that long, relatively speaking, 10 years maybe. Like it hasn't been like these contracts and stuff were created to keep you indebted to the label. That's how they were set. That's how they were structured. So, like you said, some of this you have to pay back. So, just to fill some people in, because I'm not. Let me be very clear. I'm not an expert either. I've taken a couple of classes related to it, so I know a little bit more. But take what I'm saying. Google everything I'm finna say after the fact. But when you get money up front, because you just alluded to it, Ye has to pay some of that back, and he does. So if you get some money up front, you have to recoup it. In other words, if you get $1 million up front, then that means whenever you put your record out, that first million that comes in, that goes back to the label to pay back whatever it was that you just got fronted. Then after that, it's a split of whatever split y'all negotiated, 80-20, 50-50, 40-30, 40-60, whatever the split is, that's what comes to you. And so when people do that, so bam, usually the splits were way off. They were 85% to the label, 15% to the artist. So not only did you have to give the money back that you recouped, then they take the 85% of what's left, and you have 15 to pay lawyer fees and to cover. You may have to pay back recording or producing, and then next thing you know it, you're in debt and you're thirsty for a new album. You need to hurry and put a new album out. So that's how they keep you in that cycle. They sign you to a long-term deal, 8 albums, 9 albums, 10. So you're constantly kind of on that hamster wheel, kind of like when you go to a check cashing place or a check advance place. That's how they keep you in that wheel. They keep it to where you have to come back 2 weeks from now because you're going to be short them 40 that you gave them to front you the last check, et cetera, et cetera.
So, what would you say to a music executive? And that was a good point that you just said. But what do you say to a music executive that responds to you and say, well, how do you think that we make you big? Like, how do you think that we pay for Super Bowl commercials and put you in front of car ads and make Kanye West a household name? Like, we need this much to operate. Like,
Yep.
how would you as an artist respond to that?
You have to. That's where you putting in the legwork for yourself comes into play. Like what you have today that Kanye didn't in 04 and 05 is the internet, or well, social media, I should say. You have the power of social media. You can create your own brand. You can get your own brand cracking, hopping on live, dropping singles or dropping music snippets on live, collaborating, going on live, talking to people. Like you can do so much shit. Gary Vee talk about it all the time. He'll get with an artist and be like, look, I remember he got with the baby. He was like, look, we in New York right now. You need to hop on your live and say, I'm going to be in Central Park at 2:00. The first 500 fans, I'm signing your merch. I'm signing your CD. And best believe when you pull up at Central Park at 5:00 or whatever it is, nigga, it's going to be slammed with the baby fans. And you create traction by doing stuff like that because somebody's going to film it. It's going to look epic as fuck. 500,000 people are going to be on Instagram on their shit for your event that you just threw at no cost, nigga. You just needed an hour to sign some fucking autographs or take pictures, nigga. So you do stuff like that to create leverage to come to the negotiating table. Like that's how you would do it now.
That's fair. But I think the record label has the trump card here because you can do everything that you just said and you can make a nice living from it. But you can't be Drake doing it.
Yeah, it's rough.
Right? Like you can't,
No.
you can't, it's impossible. And I think that that's where you get to, and we're talking like, since we're having this conversation about gatekeepers
Yeah.
and how hip hop is skewed towards the people behind the scenes making the money like that. Because like what you said is true. You can do that if you're the baby and you can spearhead your own social media, but that's not going to make you Drake or Kendrick Lamar. And you
Right.
could be more skilled than them and you could be more talented than them, but it's just the machine that gets behind them that keeps them rolling.
That's true.
And that's almost like free advertisement to the label. I know you and I will sit here and we'll have discussions throughout our years of hip hop and be like, well, why are people still signing deals then? Why do people still sign the Cash Money? Why are people signing the Def Jam? Because they see Drake. They see Baby on TV with a Bugatti. And regardless of what you tell a nigga, how many times a nigga hear you say, don't sign that deal, man. You can make it. You can grind on your own. Nigga come to your face and be like, here you go, 75 grand. You ain't never had nothing like this. You've been working a job. You've been grinding out as an artist for the last 3 years, sleeping on your homeboy couches. Here goes 75 grand. Yeah, you're going to have to give me that back. And you got to sign with me for 6 albums. But here goes 75 grand right here in your pocket right now, bro. And we're going to hit the button and make you popular and famous.
And here go a chain.
Yeah.
And here go a whip.
It's hard for a nigga to say no to that.
Of course.
Hard. Because they see Drake. You know what I'm saying? They see Drake.
That's more zeros than they may have seen up until that point. Absolutely. I understand that. I understand that fully, which and what gets into what we're about to talk about with masters and stuff, and what exactly that means and why it's important and why it's a bigger deal than that 75 up front or that whip up front. Masters, so like basically masters are the finished product of the song itself, the song as a whole. Like masters came off of, like you said, back in the day when you had to get the big music reel and you had to do everything by hand. And there was that one finished copy of your song and everything was duplicated from that. So it was the master recording, like a key. Like if you had a key and you just duplicated it, you got the master key.
Get it to the masses. Exactly.
Exactly. That's how.
Movie theater called me and they want to use my song in a movie. I have the master copy with the best recording. Right. I have to give it to them through the masses. That's why they're important.
Exactly. And so that gives you control over your music, of where it's played. And more importantly, you get paid from it every time it's played, performed, or sampled. And so you can negotiate masters up front. You have an easier chance of getting them if you have leverage. But typically, written in these contracts, and if you read 2 sentences of Kanye's contracts, then you know how difficult it is to read that shit, because it's not in layman's terms at all. If typically they're owned by the label. And sometimes if you negotiate properly, you can either negotiate them to have them up front, or you can negotiate to be able to buy them at the end of your term. That's typically what happens. And so unless you're somebody like P, who negotiated, I don't want the money up front. Like y'all finna give me this $400,000, $1 million up front. I don't want that. Just let me get my masters, or let me get a bigger piece of the pie. You can negotiate it that way too. So,
well, for example, like we were talking about with Diddy and Mace and in Kanye's contract as well, you can negotiate it 20 years from now.
Right.
You will be able to get your masters. And what's important about that is that you remember when Kanye was talking about that stadium music with Graduation Time, he was real big on making songs for like concerts and stadiums. Sure. The reason behind that, because 20 years from now, I still want people to be able to use these songs when I'm getting paid for it.
Yep.
I still want that stuff to be placed in movies, and I still want that stuff to be in commercials and video games. Even 20 years from now, when Stronger comes on, or
at a basketball game.
Yeah, absolutely. Wait till I get my money right like that. Yep. Like those stuff, I have to make music for that stuff to last when I'm negotiating for that. So I think that's an important point there.
And people like myself might be like, okay, but how much reasonably can you make by owning your master? Like how often does it really get played? How, nigga, that shit, you can make a boatload, and the reason why you can make a boatload is the reason why they make it so difficult. That's the number one reason why it's so difficult to obtain. They make it difficult because that's where the long-term money is. You know what I'm saying? That little 100,000, 200,000 you get up front, man, that's light work compared to what you're going to get in 5 years if you own these masters. I'm talking about super light work.
And what you mean by long-term bread for the people listening, now you hold the key when you have the masters. So is Prince said that famously, once the masters have your master, then you have a master. What that means in layman terms, and even what you just said, take Slim Thug, for instance.
Now he said if you own, either you own your masters or your masters own you.
Or the masters own you, right. Take Slim Thug, for instance. If I got the masters to just one album, like Slim Thug do, I think it's Boss of All Bosses.
That's it. I run the streets all night.
Every time somebody got to use that, instead of going to Universal and Universal being able to negotiate a fee, they paying me 10 cents on the dollar for the song. I get to hire a lawyer. I get to negotiate a fee, and I get all of the money as opposed to instead of what Universal would give me.
Yep.
All I got to do is pay my lawyer.
Yep.
So even if it doesn't make you enough money or all the money directly, it gives you the keys to be able to negotiate, and that's the
Yep.
power in business. Like if you have leverage, then those contracts and all the other bullshit, you can make your way through them, and you can make a lot of money with leverage of your master. So having the leverage of the masters is very key.
And think about how many times a radio song gets played on the radio worldwide.
Across across the
Like, think
world.
about that.
Well, think about just DJ. Like, think how many clubs there are in America. You know that clubs have to pay a licensing fee
Yep.
to play music.
Yeah.
When you go to Publix got to pay to play that music in the background.
Walgreens.
Walgreens, they play that. They pay those bills at the beginning of the year.
Yep.
All the stadiums that you go, well, not now since we in COVID, but you go to a stadium, that stadium has paid beforehand to use all that music.
Yeah. And so it's and the way people get paid is it's delayed. So it's kind of like how, because it takes time to process them. So it's kind of like if you get a speeding ticket, but your court date ain't until like 4 months from now. You know what I'm saying? It's because it's delayed. And so people usually get checks.
Mailbox money.
Exactly. It's mailbox money. Exactly. You get a check like once every 6 months or once a quarter. And that will maybe for the prior year or the prior 2 years or something like that. So, and just to kind of give some examples, you mentioned Slim Thug. Slim Thug is on record saying that album, Boss of All Bosses, that was the one album that he owned the masters to. He said that pays his entire home, the bills to the crib. He maintains his lifestyle just off of that one album. And if you follow Slim Thug on Instagram, you know what that motherfucking lifestyle looks like, and it's nuts.
Pretty nice.
It's fucking nuts. And half of the people listening may not have even heard that album that we're talking about right now, if we're just keeping it a stack, because it didn't go 10 times platinum. Like, it's not like that. But he owns the majority of it. And masters are different from publishing too. Some people hear publishing, and Kanye may own his publishing, or Taylor Swift may own her publishing, but they don't own their masters. Publishing is the words and the production that goes into it. The master is the final product. Right. So they can be owned by different people depending on who did what. Now, if you're somebody like Sir Mix-a-Lot, which I know that's funny, that's a funny example, but he owns the publishing and he owns the masters, and he wrote and produced and arranged it. So it's one person that is wearing all those hats. So all those checks go to him. So he was asked how much he made off of Baby Got Back that came out in 1992. He said he has made over $100 million off of that song because he owns the masters. That's fucking ridiculous.
Because that still get played in commercials and shit today. I could definitely see that.
It's been sampled. Like $100 million. Bruh.
I wonder what he did with that money.
They said he living good though.
He don't look like he made $100 million though.
No, they said they said his crib in Seattle is crazy though.
Really?
Like, and he owned like big dog real estate in Seattle and shit. Who knew?
He from Seattle?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Check that out.
So it's people like him. It's people like Rick Ross owns his own masters, which explains his house.
To all of his albums?
To my knowledge, yeah. Yep. Of course, we know Rihanna. She owns her masters. She bought them back when her deal was up. Frank Ocean, Chance the Rapper. He's independent, so he owns all his shit. So these are Kanye owns some of his later projects. He just doesn't own the earlier shit. Kind of similar to how Jay was. Jay didn't remember. Jay wanted Reasonable Doubt. He wanted to buy that back.
I feel like that's how this conversation got big around Reasonable Doubt. Because when streaming services kind of took off and people were like, well, shit, why isn't Reasonable Doubt on, or whatever it may be. But I feel like it was Jay holding on to his masters or trying to get his masters because that was his pride and joy. And I think it kind of like went from there.
Because when you do that, then you can have the 20th anniversary merch line.
Exactly.
And you can have a merch deal with whoever. And like, it's so many different things. You can do the greatest hits. You can do it's damn near unlimited, dude. Have you heard about Michael Jackson?
Yeah.
And the shit that he owned, or obviously he's dead, but you know what I'm saying? He bought a record label from Sony, like late 80s, I want to say, early 90s for like.
Did you hear about the conversation, how that came about?
Uh-uh.
So Paul McCartney was telling him, and he was like, Michael, you really want to make music. I mean, you want to make money in this music, man, you got to own the masses. Like you
Mm.
have to go in and, he explained the whole masters thing similar to what we're doing.
Yeah.
After that conversation, Michael went and bought the Beatles masters
Yeah. I
over
saw
like
that.
over Paul McCartney's head because Paul McCartney was trying to negotiate a deal. And he was just indirectly giving Mike just advice. And Mike took that advice and fucked him with it.
Yeah. That's fun.
On all of them masters. That's funny.
And so that's funny. How it happened was he bought a recording house, a label that had some of those
Beatles
Beatles,
masters, yeah.
and it had like Bruce Springsteen and some other. It's about 4,000 songs. He
Do you
paid
know? Yeah.
he paid 45 million for it.
Mm-hmm.
Sony bought half of them back in 2013, 2012 after he
Paid
died.
his estate $500 million.
750 million for
Mm-hmm.
half.
And they said that was a
Half.
rip. They said that was a ripoff.
You see what I'm saying?
They said that $750 million for half was a complete ripoff. Process that. A $750 million deal and you got ripped off.
I'm gonna tell you why I believe it though, because if you look back, I forgot what year he bought them, but if you account for inflation, that 45 million that he paid is about 250, 260 now.
Yeah.
So then if you take 260 and what that would look like for 30 years
Yeah,
later, then I can see why somebody would say that.
Absolutely.
Which is fucking nuts. What are you gonna say?
No, go ahead.
Now, some quick examples of people who don't own their shit. Drake. I don't think he owns his masters. If he did, he probably would stop making music. He wouldn't have to.
And that's a great example. I'm glad you went into that, but because it's not, I won't say mandatory, but sometimes it's not feasible. Think about how Drake came into the game. Like you come in the game making successful, right? Like I know he made songs before that, but primarily, if you're making songs like that on somewhere out of the gate, the people that you're negotiating with, Cash Money, Universal, like these people are experienced. They know that this is gonna go.
That's a fact.
Like they know what this is gonna do. Like hell no. Like there's nothing that you could say as Drake going and creating that song at that age to say I want my masters.
No, they're gonna slide you the
nothing.
standard joint.
Yeah, like there's literally nothing that he could have did to get his masters for that stuff. If he wanted to be a star, if he wanted to be Drake.
Yeah.
Like those people that he went and talked to, and I don't know if it was Baby or whoever he signed with or whoever he got on with, you listen to what he is and you see that complete package right there, it kind of puts Drake at a disadvantage when it comes to stuff like your masters because no smart businessman is going to give that to him.
Man, listen.
Like, you don't even have, like we talked about leverage, like there's no leverage that Drake has making, what's the name of that mixtape? So Far Gone. Man, you ain't got no leverage other than you got this banging ass tape. You take this $1 million, my nigga, and whatever I put in front of you, you better sign it.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Or you can go back home to Toronto.
They just inflated that upfront check. That upfront check was, I think it was $2 million if I'm not mistaken.
That's what I'm saying. Here, take this $2 million.
That ain't nothing to sneeze at now.
Masters, no, it's nothing to sneeze at. But imagine if that nigga owned the Masters to successful. Maybe it would have never been successful though, or best I ever had.
Yeah.
Because like the industry got those songs, and it's like, man, we taking this. Like even right now today, that song probably make $2 million a year. He signed for $2 million for that tape. Like I'm sure successful or best I ever had make $2 million a year.
Probably so. Still,
but again, Drake, there's nothing. Or at least from my position sitting here talking about it to you, like I don't see anything an artist, a young up like an NBA young boy, the people that have a little buzz on the beginning, if you're not willing to do what Master P said and say, well, if this nigga willing to offer me $1 million for this, like I know I gotta be worth at least 50 for him to make that type of investment in me in the front. But I don't think a lot of people are willing to take that chance, regardless of how talented they are, like Drake.
Those are kids too that we're talking about. To be fair,
absolutely.
NBA young boys, like teenagers.
I don't want people to think I think that that's wrong or that there's anything wrong with it. I wouldn't expect anything different. If I was in a position, I'm taking them $2 million. So I don't want people to think that I'm playing armchair quarterback here. But that's what we're talking about. And I think that's the root of Kanye's rant. The music business isn't set up for people, artists, to be successful.
Nah.
It's set up for you to be manipulated. Like,
Yeah.
even if you do have, like P, the reason that P was able to even putting out trash ass music, his name has rung bells through this many generations because of the deal that he was able to pull off. Like, that
Yep.
shit doesn't happen. It hadn't happened since,
Yep.
to get 85 to 15 to that. So like it's a testament to what Kanye was saying as far as the music business and the ownership. Like, it's not set up for you to even have the conversations that Kanye is trying to have. So I do appreciate that from him, but it's a hard road.
Yeah. And it's crazy because even Kanye was shouting out Taylor Swift, and because her infamous situation with her masters was Scooter Braun, Justin Bieber's manager, bought her old record label, which owned her masters. And so, when you up and coming, you Taylor Swift, you get discovered by some whoever, and they got Nobody Records, nigga, and they put Taylor Swift out for 5 albums, and she blows up and ends up being Taylor Swift, and then somebody comes along and buys that record label for more money than whoever the fuck owned it had ever seen in their life. And now they own Taylor Swift shit, and Taylor Swift was hot because she said that they went behind her back to do that. So she was hot about that shit.
It's similar to, like, we own the masters essentially to this, all the recorders that we've been doing. We're not signing anything.
Right.
If Spotify came and said, hey, you guys been doing this for 6 years, you got over 300 plus episodes, almost 4, we'll give you guys $1 million for all 400 episodes.
Right.
Well, we wouldn't be dumb to take that, but some people would look at it and be like, oh, y'all sold out.
Right.
But that's $1 million for stuff that we've already done. Now, you got to depend on the licensing and how they're going to control your image and things of that nature.
Yep.
But the record companies hold most of the leverage because they have the money. They're able to come in with the big boy dollars at the front. Like, I don't need $1 million, but if somebody come offering, it would be nice.
Well, no, for sure.
So like, that's the situation that artists are put in. Like, they mostly like need it though.
Do you see a change coming? Where do we go from here? Do you think do you think his crusade will be effective? like what does this do?
I don't see how. I hope a change would come, and I hope that bigger name artists would be able to click up, put something together. Maybe you create a union. But I just don't see how it would happen because people are going to sign up for what these guys are not going to do. It's just like with the NBA and the NFL. Like, if people say, well, I'm not playing basketball, okay, we'll find other basketball players. And it may not for the first couple of years be to the quality that we were rolling out there, but we're going to get back there because we're the NBA or we're the NFL or we're Universal Records. So I ain't got to pay if the Drakes of the world want to be independent, y'all go be independent and make the money that you're going to make. But it's not going to, I don't think the doors at Universal are going to close.
I don't know.
If those guys go be independent, you do think that they could close the doors? I hope for it. Why not? Yeah, because it's so much easier to do everything now. Like, I don't need $10,000 to record a music video or $1 million budget to do a recording album. Like, I don't need that stuff. Like, I can sit in my house, get my homeboy to shoot the video. We got everything done, album, promo, marketing for under $1 million. And I could be the next NLE Chopper.
I think it'll end up being a situation where artists have the option written into their contract. I think labels will have to pivot just a little bit if they keep the press on. If some other people join the fight with Ye, but he's so unpredictable, it may take a minute for people to buy in. They might think he's just going on a tangent. But if they get some momentum, I think there'll be a situation where most contracts will have to have the option written in it to buy back the masters at XYZ price at the end of the contract length. I think that's the fairest because then the label gets the masters up until the end of the contract length. And then when the contract length is up, I can buy them back. And if I'm successful, that shouldn't be a problem. And now I own them and I get them long-term for here until the end of time. I think that makes the most sense. Realistically.
I think that makes sense. I just don't think I think the labels still hold the leverage. I don't think that they'll do that. Because they
hold it until people start going independent. When Drake goes independent, They're
So
gonna.
here's a question for you then. Like, let's say you go independent and you're Drake, you can still make money. Okay, I give that to you specifically if you're Drake. But right now, especially during the quarantine, if I'm an artist who wants to go independent, where am I making money from? I can't go on the road. Like the streams are paying me pennies on the stream, so I might make a couple $1,000s a month from that. Like
Merch.
I need the label right now.
Look at the merch. That's not true. Unless you putting out gang affiliated merch like Benny. Other than that,
But
niggas,
everybody ain't able though.
man,
Like those niggas are special. Like those Griselda niggas. Like everybody can't throw McDonald's on a t-shirt and get $68 for that motherfucker. Like Travis Scott.
that's on you.
Like, like it's a nigga
You
like
gotta put the leg work in.
it's a nigga like what true you do. You're right. And I think Dame Dash. Oh, excuse me, not Dame Dash. Dame Lillard when he was talking about Paul George and Pat Beverly. Like y'all niggas out here trying to cheat the process. Like y'all can't run from the grind.
Exactly.
You out here, you grind, and then you're gonna get it. I do feel like it. You might not ever be Drake, but you do have the opportunity to get it. But I don't think that the record label loses its leverage either. I think they still gonna be doing deals because people still are gonna want to be Drake.
I think before we wrap it up, at worst, I'm talking about this is absolute worst, is putting this concept of owning your masters in the heads of artists. And it's disrupting at least just a little bit for some people who didn't know. Some people now are like, hey, get my lawyer on the phone. What my shit look like? I guarantee you, when Kanye was snapping and ran talking about look at my contract, lower level people who aren't Kanye West were like, damn, what does my shit look like? Hey, call my CPA, call my lawyer. Hey, how does my shit look? I guarantee it. And so now it's at least waking people up. People have been woke up though. We celebrated on the show all the time. 2 Chainz got his masters back not too long ago. 21 Savage, NLE Chopper. I don't hear any other podcast celebrating this, but that's okay. We celebrate it because it's news to us. That's a big deal. So I can't say what Ye is doing is just like, oh, well, he's just talking. Not when we talk about this shit all the time to begin with. So I think at least it'll be on the front of people's minds now. That's on the low end.
Well, I think the people that say you're right. I agree with that. And the people that say he's just talking, I think it's as always with Kanye, it's the approach. Like he got enough leverage
and that's his
to say,
fault.
That's his fault. Like
That's his fault.
you turn people off immediately when you go to Twitter and you be like, "Hey, nigga, hit me up."
Yes.
Like, bro, like call me. Or
Stop
just
name
reach out to the
dropping
nigga that you know that knows me and have him reach out. If I want to get with you, I get with you.
Please
but I
stop
think you
name
lose a
dropping
little
Drake.
bit of.
Please, man, that's my
love
nigga.
Drake. Nigga love Drake, man. But I think
it.
Kanye loses a little bit of leverage when he does this, but he does bring a good conversation to the forefront that needs to be had. And like you said, we celebrate over here because we're independent. And we like the fact that these things make the road less traveled. It shines some spotlight on it and gives us a little reverence as far as getting to where we want to be.
Absolutely, man. Hey, let us know what you guys think. Big business talk over here on the OndeckTV podcast. We got some wins and some losses, man.
We do have some wins and some losses. The first W goes to Lil Wayne's former manager. I didn't know he was his former manager. Cortez Bryant. He is set to teach a careers in music course at the HBCU, the Jackson State University.
That's dope. Shout out to Cortez Bryant. Used to manage a lot of the people at Young Money, Wayne, Nikki. That's super dope. I'm mad none of this was in school when I was in college, but shout out to those who get to benefit from that. And shout out to Jackson State, man. They just named Deion Sanders as their football coach, so they're shaking it.
I see you, Jackson State. Shout out to Cortez Bryant, man. He got a great episode of How I Built This, if you guys haven't seen that. That's really, really good.
Dope podcast.
Next W goes to your man's Saha.
This ain't a W.
The next L. Well, you don't even know what this is because this is real sketchy right here. There's a website out there that has a free Saha the Prince. There was a tweet that's really sketchy that went out there. L to Saha the Prince, man, for possibly being locked up. What did you find out about this?
Yeah, man. Saha erased all of his pictures on Instagram. He has one photo that says free Saha, and there's a link to a website, freesaha.com, which has an address where you can mail and write him. And it also has a couple of causes in regards to people who were wrongfully imprisoned. And there's a donation button.
It's big cap.
I didn't. When I first saw the free Saha, I thought it happened the same night that Kanye shit was going on. So I was like, he wants to be freed from the label. When you click that link, it looked like he wanted to be freed from the Bing. Nigga, that shit look crazy.
This big cap, man. Shout out to my Atlanta niggas, as they would say, man. This big old cap, man. Search the records. He ain't been arrested lately or nothing, man.
He
His
might
real
not be in
name.
Georgia though. You search the world, motherfucker. He could be locked up someplace else.
He could be locked up somewhere else, but I doubt it. I doubt it. I think this is one of those Kanye West ploys he's just not doing a good job of, because as you notice, other than us, no one's talking about Sahai being in jail.
Hey.
I just think that it would have hit the media mainstream, and like if it's not on, I ain't saying MTV News gonna break, but it would have been somewhere, and it ain't been nowhere.
We are the mainstream.
We're doing it exactly, absolutely. Also, man, an elder Bobby Shmurda, man, he was recently denied, speaking of jail, denied on his parole. So
free Bobby Shmurda.
Man. Free Bobby Shmurda, man. Big old W going out to your man's DJ Khaled. It is announced as a music curator for Monday Night Football. He also has a new podcast deal with Amazon Music.
Yeah. Two big plays. Khaled be working, man. Like, he may get on your nerves, and you may think he's not funny. You may think his album's overrated. But hey, you think he not working out here? Like, you got to get to him, man. Like, he stay with a deal on deck. I feel like at least once every 7 months we're on here talking about a new deal, whether it's Weight Watchers, Monday Night Football, Amazon, Snapchat, whatever it is. So I got to get to him. He getting to it, man. I don't know about that podcast though, man. I might have to let somebody else listen to that and let me know how it go.
Why don't you know about the podcast?
I don't know if I can listen. I don't know how he would do. Is it just him talking to artists? I've never heard him. His interviews have never really done anything for me, so I don't know how he would be as a personality in this regard. He's funny in 30-second clips on Snapchat. on Instagram, though, but a full-fledged him Q&A with somebody else, I don't know, bro.
They need to let me produce it first and foremost if he wants it to be good, because what he's gonna have to do, he's gonna have to turn it down. This podcast should be a place where you get another DJ Khaled. Like it ain't the win. It ain't the calling you 1,000 times for a feature. It should be where he gets to have like cool, laid back conversations with people. And I know, like I know Khaled has his personality, but I also feel like there's a part of his personality that can drop some gems. Like, I think he should build some chill shit and give you some good stories. As many people as that nigga been around, as much as he been doing the last couple of years as DJ Khaled, I know he got some good stories for podcasting. So I think he could do it. It just has to be done right.
Yeah, the podcast deals are flowing right now. We'll talk about that in a second. We got a bonus W.
Bonus W goes out to your man G Herbo for buying his elementary school that closed, and he's turning that into a space for community development in Chicago. Big W to my man G Herbo. I really like Herbo, man. I like what he's doing. Can't name one. My girl always asks me, she say, what song does G Herbo sing? He got 1 million Instagram followers and not one notable song.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't have radio hits no more. But you can have 1 million followers without a radio hit.
That's a fact. G Herbo is absolutely a famous person, and he's a rapper, but you can't name one song. And I ain't dissing in saying that. I'm saying
I fuck with Herbo, though. I fuck with him. I can, but I'm a fan, so that's different.
Yeah, I mean, true. Absolutely. But you still can't name one song.
But big shouts to him. That's super dope. And the name of his elementary school was Overton.
Really?
Yep.
I see you, G Herbo. Let's go Overton. I know that was a great school. Let's go. Shout out to my John Overton Bobcats in Nashville, man.
We good on that. Man, on Decker of the Week, speaking of these podcast deals going on, shout out to @239Hurst. He left a dope comment on Twitter, says, since y'all boys vets in the game, I think y'all should dedicate a whole episode to what y'all think about this podcast revenue game. Maybe y'all discuss it, but that'll be lit. Bonus episode. Got to bring M Extra in for that as well. He also said, kind of like the Nipsey episode where it was straight to the chase, the podcast game has been wild these last couple of months.
He actually said
239Hurst.
You got to bring in M Extra drip for that, for sure. I'm not sure M Extra has drip.
Yeah, that's questionable.
That's very questionable. So I'm not sure if that was a typo, but we could see what we need to do to get him extra back for that conversation. I feel like that would be a good conversation to have. You don't listen, but Joe Budden has been having it for the last 3 weeks. Charlemagne has been having it for the last couple of weeks on Brilliant Idiot. So the on-deckers have spoken and they kind of want us to tap into it. So we'll do so.
Yeah, that's super dope. Maybe bring in a couple of members of the network, man, to have a good discussion. But that's dope. So we're looking at that. I don't know about bringing him extra on, though. He might have to sit this one out. Nah, I'm fucking out.
I wouldn't mind having my guy in here, man, for one.
That's a fact. Man, what you got on deck, though? Oh, excuse me.
What do I have to put you on?
There you go. I took it back. I was throwback.
Question. Yeah, it is. The Soul Part 2 by my man, Logic. Excuse me, Reason. And I'm just going to say, in that song, he dissed Logic. And he was talking about niggas. I feel like that he was talking about us, well, me specifically on this podcast, because I kept calling him Logic, and his name is Reason, and he addressed that in this song. Y'all go check out The Soul Part 2. That shit is fire. Brand new Reason single.
Why do I wish his name wasn't Reason, though?
Because it gets you confused with Logic. I'm telling you.
No, it just
Reason, Logic, it's the same.
It's too hard to Google, man. Like, if I'm looking for a new Reason song, it's too general of a name.
Is Logic too reasonable a name?
Yeah, but who's Googling that?
Reasonable Logic. It should be. It should be like Jay-Z and called himself Reasonable Logic.
Ain't nobody Googling that shit. But yeah, I fuck with Reason. I'm looking forward to his new music. I fuck with him heavy, but that name.
You like that track?
Yeah, that song was hard. Yeah.
He was ripping it at the end too.
Nah, he be ripping shit.
That's a fact.
I got something to put you on. This is old. I'm just now getting to it. It's a documentary that came out in 2013. It is called The African Americans, Many Rivers to Cross. Have you seen that? 6-part series.
On PBS, absolutely.
Yes. Man, it's on Amazon Prime to watch. And it takes it back to African Americans in America, and it takes each episode is a time period. So it's like the part one is like 1500 to like 1833, and nigga, it is flames. I'm talking about. I watched the first episode. You're really gonna trip. What was the guy last name? Was it Johnson? I want to say it was Johnson. If your last name is Johnson, which I believe that's what it was, you're really gonna trip off that first episode. If you're black and your last name is Johnson, you're gonna trip off that last episode. Because that's probably where you came from right there. So it's very, very dope. I hated history while I was in high school. I'm starting to believe they made that shit boring and lame for a reason, because it worked, because I did not pay attention. Now as I've gotten older,
they weren't teaching you about your history. That's why we weren't.
That's a good point.
Interested in it. It was all about like white people and slaves and Americans.
That's fair.
I don't give a fuck about that shit.
As
soon as African American history was like in Nashville, I got buddies from Detroit and the other place, Chicago, and they were taught that shit in school. But in Nashville, we weren't taught that shit in school. Nope. As soon as I went to college, I think it was my first year at MTSU, I had an African American studies teacher. My jaw was on the floor.
Yeah.
And ever since then, like with Hidden Colors and the different stuff that you learn, even this documentary that you're talking about, like history is awesome. But like you said, in school, that shit was like a snooze fest because we didn't care. That shit didn't affect us. Nobody looked like us. It was like, fuck y'all talking about.
Yeah,
I agree with you there.
That shit was whack. This shit is fire. I can't wait to finish this. There's a couple of parts I want to almost jump to certain sections, but I'm gonna go ahead and run it through straight like I'm supposed to. And again,
what did you say that show was on? I seen it on PBS.
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime.
I'm gonna check it out.
If you want to watch it, it's super dope.
Absolutely.
As always, man, appreciate y'all checking in. Keep your eyes out on Patreon this week. Keep your eyes out on Patreon moving forward. Big changes coming. You're going to like it. I promise. Patreon.com/RealVille. Link is in the show notes. Also, YouTube.com/RealVille. Make sure y'all subscribe. We are on a road to 1,000 subscribers. We will have a giveaway when we get there. We'll have a couple of giveaways. We'll do some fly shit when we get to that 1,000th subscriber, all right?
Absolutely, man. As again, another week in the books. We appreciate you guys joining in for the OndeckTV podcast. Support the real. We out.
Mahalo.